Get hype. Get hype for Pokemans. Oh my God. All right. This is my Pokemon. Let me show you them. And this is my face here. And this is a picture of a Pokedex and a Pokeball. Does everybody here know what a Pokemon is? Yes. Does anybody here not know what a Pokemon is? Okay. Well, we're gonna cover that anyways. All right. So here we go. Does this work? Hold on. There we go. Okay, we're in motion now. Hello there. Welcome to the world of Pokemon. My name is Josh. People call me Josh. This world is inhabited by creatures called Pokemon. For some people, Pokemon are pets. Other people use them for fights. Myself, I collect Pokemon obsessively to remind myself that I am in control and that I am okay. And why shouldn't I? I grew up at the height of Pokemania in the 90s. And if you're a 90s kid, only you remember the famous and sometimes infamous slogan of the Pokemon franchise. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all. Alas, catching them all has become a more and more daunting task since the 90s. There are currently 9 generations of Pokemon released across the mainline games. A keen observer will note that the "Gotta Catch 'Em All" slogan was dropped swiftly in the 3rd generation. I think they kind of understood that this would become a little bit ridiculous. Also, in the early development of the 3rd generation of Pokemon, there were some concerns around backwards compatibility and, in fact, jeopardizing the ability to indeed catch all of them. But perhaps a Pokemon company... Perhaps the Pokemon Company were becoming aware of the doom that such a motto would spread. But if you were an 8 to 12-year-old male child in 1996, it was too late. Their hooks were already in pretty deep, and they would not let go. As of Generation 9, there are currently 1,025 unique Pokemon species to collect. A ridiculous number that could only be achieved by spawning the most successful intellectual property franchise in human history. And this isn't just a fetch quest. There are many exciting ways to catch them all. Let's review some of the game mechanics that are used for collecting Pokemon. The first one might seem obvious. It is catching them. Apart from starting with a Pokemon from a Pokemon professor in any given generation, you are left as a wandering child in the wilderness to go out and catch some more for yourself. The next one is, of course, evolution. Standard in all of the Pokemon games, and unlike Digimon, Pokemon evolution is a one-way ticket. No takes backsies. Another is making them fuck. In its 2nd generation, introduced some breeding mechanics that were used to introduce some baby Pokemon. They're also useful for going back and obtaining Pokemon in later later stages of evolution that you might not be able to go back and get their pre-evolutions. Trading, of course. Pokemon loves money. And they would like to have your money and your friend's money. If they can't have your friend's money, they can have all of your money, and you can be a really cool kid and just trade with yourself. Obviously, there are some version exclusive Pokemon that require you to buy both generational versions. So, fuck you. There are also some Pokemon that are only obtainable via special events. These famous ones have been perhaps Celebi and Mew in the earlier generations. There were just no other way to get these Pokemon previously. People are still holding out for the truck. Yeah, please go and patch those 3DS ports so we can get our Mew and fulfill all of our playground rumors. And then, of course, there's also eBay sometimes. When you can't make it to a special event distribution, you can just go on eBay and look up mythical Pokemon, and somebody will take your money and send them to you totally legit, 100% guaranteed. And I have certainly not resorted to this myself at all. Barring any of those methods, there's also, of course, piracy. Also, this song is just a bop. I'm just going to sit here for a minute. All right, but we're all good people, right? We don't need to resort to baddie tactics to collect Pokemon, right? But you are still all insatiable completionists like me and want your fancy Pokedex completion certificate, don't you? In fact, if you're really like me, you want more than a fancy certificate. You want to literally catch and have every single one of these Pokemon in existence all laid out in a perfect organization inside Pokemon boxes provided by a cloud service that charges us 24 Canadian dollars each year, don't you? Well, unless you're exactly like me, then perhaps you need to understand the different levels or tiers of Pokedex completionism. So, of course, first there is the completed dex. This is just simple, basic stuff. You get yourself a Bulbasaur, the number one Pokemon of choice, of course. You take that Pokemon and you evolve it into a Venusaur. An Ivysaur. Oh my god, getting ahead of myself. You take your Ivysaur, you get it to level 32, it becomes a Venusaur. Congratulations, you have registered each one of those Pokemon in your Pokedex, and you have satisfied Professor Oak, but he is a complete chump, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. We need to go further. There is what is called a living dex, the next tier in Pokedex completion. This is where, say, you have your Venusaur, you bring in that Ditto and you make it smash, and you get yourself another little Bulbasaur, and perhaps two, so that you can have an Ivysaur as well. And then in your Pokemon boxes, you have one of each Pokemon in the evolutionary line. You do this so on for each Pokemon in the Pokedex. You then have a living dex. But there's one step further, and this is really the shit right here. We're going to talk about a living form dex. That is where you have a Bulbasaur, an Ivysaur, a Venusaur, and a female Ivysaur or Venusaur, which has a little seed on top of its flower. Just very minor difference, but it makes a huge difference all the same. It matters to me. I don't know if it matters to you. One thing we will not be talking about today is shiny living form dexes. Shiny hunters, get a life. That is the whole panel. I draw the line there. I don't know. Your devotion to RNGesus just needs to be questioned. You need to get on with yourself. Anyways, okay, so including all of the form variations that are currently available in the Pokemon series, we go from 1,025 Pokemon to 1,390 Pokemon. That gives you, what is that, like 365 extra Pokemon to collect? That's almost 36% more collection to scratch that itch with. And the series has tried to keep itself pretty fresh over the years, so there have been many ways in which a Pokemon's form can vary. Let's review some of the different forms that are available. The first and most obvious one is gender. Pokemon decided in Generation 2 that Pokemon should have genders. Yes, there are male and female, but it should also be noted that there are genderless Pokemon, and most of them are legendary. So what else we got? We've got some of these categories are my own. I've just had to kind of do it for this presentation, but there are some aesthetic different forms. For instance, you see Furfrou up there, which is a poodle Pokemon, where in Pokemon X and Y you can give them different haircuts, and those are registered as different forms. It's kind of a pity because those forms, you can get them in Pokemon X and Y, but if you transfer them to a storage like Pokemon Bank or Pokemon Home, it just reverts to its scruffy little Furfrou and is super frustrating. We'll get into that a little bit later. There are also regional Pokemon. These Pokemon were introduced in Generation 7 with Alola, and they are not only differences in aesthetic, but also differences in types, and in some cases some abilities as well. There are some environmental these are more than aesthetic changes. These are reflected in where a Pokemon resides in a given region. For instance, Shellos has a difference in depending on where it's on the west coast or east coast of the given region that it's in. There are also some interaction forms. For instance, Rotom is a ghost electric Pokemon that can possess certain electronic devices, and it will change its form and its type and its appearance based on the item that it's haunting. And there are also some unique Pokemon that I just didn't have any other way to categorize. And so, for instance, Ash Greninja, which is not actually a collectible form of Pokemon, but we will get to that. All right, well, let's dive a little deeper into each of these different form variation types. We have gender, which, I understand as a woke human being that gender is a construct, a social construct, a form of expression. However, I am very confident that the Pokemon Company in North America is very deliberately trying to avoid the word sex in their games. So, in fact, gender, as it's used in Pokemon, is more accurately representative of a Pokemon's sex. And it was introduced in Generation 2. Okay, so Generation 1, we had Nidoran, male and female. They were actually, in fact, different species. But they introduced gender in Pokemon Generation 2 so that they could, get breeding and stuff like that, so we could have some babies. But actually, the form differences between Pokemon of different genders was introduced in Generation 4, kind of arbitrarily. I don't know why they decided to do that, but the differences are actually quite small, and they are a reflection of sexual dimorphism in nature. These are, changes between a male and female in a given species that usually is representative of a species' gender roles, etc., in the survival or the behavior of that species. And as I did say earlier, a lot of genderless mons are legendary. So with all of the gender form differences that are available in the Pokemon collection, it adds another 103 Pokemon to collect. Moving on, we've got some aesthetic differences. You will see alchemy. Anybody here understand the pain of collecting alchemy? Okay, yeah, I see you so hard. But there are some notable examples. Pikachu caps. I don't know why they did this. This was a distribution only. Yeah, and because Pikachu is their little mascot, and they just have to dress it up and make it super annoying to collect. But they have 8 different caps for Pikachu, and we will see them later as I show off my collection. There is Spinda, but we don't talk about Spinda. So anybody who knows Spinda, this is a Dizzy Pokemon. It was introduced in Generation 3, and Spinda has a spot pattern that is determined by a personality value, which is a 32-bit integer encryption code that is generated when the Pokemon is seen and created in the game, and it gives the Spinda like a probability, like there is a probability of 2 Spinda having the same spot pattern is like 1 in over 4 billion. That said, thankfully in terms of Pokemon Home, the form differences are not collectible, they are not registered, so we just look at Spinda and we just move on. There is Vivillon, which is a butterfly Pokemon. It has 20 distinct wing patterns, and the fun part about this is not only is this an aesthetic difference, but these patterns are actually region locked. So they were introduced in Generation 5 with Pokemon... No, it was Generation 6, Pokemon X and Y, and the wing patterns are indicative of certain biomes, such as oceans, tropical places, deserts, and so I believe it was 3DS took your location data and told you what kind of spupa you could get that would then evolve into a Vivillon of a specific wing pattern, and it was incredibly frustrating to collect. Furfrou, as mentioned earlier, has 10 different hairstyles. Some of those are also region locked. There's fur patterns that are only available in Egypt, only available in France, only available in Japan, and I think there's one other country that I might be forgetting. But that and Vivillon are easiest to collect in the modern day through like Pokemon Go, basically trading in a global trading center, etc. There's Pumpkaboo, which is very easy to collect. It's just 4 different pumpkin sizes. It's a spooky pumpkin Pokemon, and I like that they just kind of gave it 4 different sizes. I grew up in a rural area, and pumpkin fall fair contests were quite common. There's a Pokemon called Minior, which is a meteorite Pokemon, and inside it has a possibility of having one of 7 colors. They are representative of the color spectrum, Roy G. Biv, and so the only way that you know what color is on the inside, because when you first encounter it, it's all brown on the outside, it has an outer shell. You have to bring its HP down to 50% to know what color you are able to collect before you catch it. There's a lot of aesthetic Pokemon, so we're going to get into that. Magearna, original color. This one is the pride of my collection, because in order to get this Pokemon, you have to collect and register in your Pokemon home like the full, thankfully not the Form Dex, but like a proper like completed Pokedex up to Generation 8, I believe, in order to unlock this Pokemon. And then it just gives you a Magearna with color, because its normal form is quite gray and rusted pale. There's a Sinistea line, which is kind of like a take on a ceramic tea set. It has a inauthentic form and a authentic form, and the only difference is like a tiny little stamp that you can barely see sometimes when you look at the Pokemon from a certain angle. Very very much like Antiques Roadshow, I believe, is the inspiration for that Pokemon. There is Alchemy, and we saw some groans in the audience earlier. This is a Pokemon that evolves from what is a fairy type, which is basically just like a glob of milk. And Generation 8, they introduced a pirouette mechanic where you could spin your analog stick, and your character would do like a little pirouette in place and end on like a really cool pose, and that was great. But then they actually used that as an evolutionary method for this Pokemon, and so there are 63 forms of this Pokemon that you can collect. They will be on display in my collection later, but the differences are there are 7 suites that you can attach to it in order to evolve it. So there's 7 forms, and then it changes its color based on the direction that you spin your character, the time of day that you spin your character, the length of time that you spin your character, and so you have it's like 9 variations of these different suites that you attach to it. It's just ridiculous. You'll all kind of see it in awe later on with my collection. Just a couple more special mentions from Generation 9. There was Mousehold, which has a version with 3 Pokemon or 4 Pokemon. The fun thing about that is Mousehold will actually evolve just kind of behind your back. You won't see it. Usually when a Pokemon evolves, you'll see dun, 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 and it'll make a big show of it. But Mousehold, because it's 2 Pokemon together that make little babies, I guess, they just don't want to show you how that process works. So they just do it behind your back. And you just are lucky whether you get 3 or 4. The Dunsparce is kind of a dumb Pokemon, but I just love that they made it extra redundant with 3 or 4 segment forms. So all together, aesthetically, that adds another 134 additional forms to collect. Let's move on to regional forms. So these were introduced in Generation 7. We start with Alolan forms, kind of like a tropical Hawaiian setting, which introduces 18 new forms of Pokemon. We've got Galarian forms, which are the Galar region is indicative of the UK, so they have some proper gentlemen, etc. We've got Hisuian, which is ancient Sinnoh. They added 16 unique forms of existing Pokemon, but technically 17 if you count Basculin. It's really just like another color of a Basculin, but I count it anyways. And then just in Paldea, they only had 4 new forms because they added some more not exclusive, how do I describe this? They did things with existing Pokemon that made them entirely new species altogether. We'll get to that later on. But yes, regional altogether, there are 58 total additional Pokemon to collect. And it should be noted that some regional Pokemon evolve into new branches of species, making them absolutely necessary for collection. We do have some environmental, as I was saying earlier. We can see we've got Burmy and Wormadam. Burmy in the bottom left there, that is representative of a bagworm, which is a worm that collects materials from its surroundings to protect itself. And so you can see from left to right, we have a Burmy collecting materials from the forest or just nature, we have one that is collecting sand and rock from a rocky biome. And then the pink one is trash, I guess, somehow. Yeah, that makes sense. And then there's also Shellos and Gastrodon, which we saw earlier. There is Deerling and Saws. Buck. Deerling is a Pokemon that changes its appearance based on the season that you're catching it in, and in future generations, just like a general environmental. There are mountains with snow where you catch the winter one, etc. Yada yada. There is also Oricorio with 4 dance forms, and these can be changed based on the location that you catch it or the honey that you give it, I believe. This adds only 15 additional Mons to collect. Finally, I think we've got interaction. So these are Pokemon that change their form based on interaction with an item or interaction with a specific location, such as Deoxys, which has a normal attack and a defense and a speed form. Love Deoxys, super favorite of mine. Rotom, which we mentioned earlier, you can make it haunt a oven, a washing machine, a fridge, a fan, or a lawnmower to change it to a electric fire, electric water, electric ice, electric flying, and electric grass. There is Shaman, which has a land and a sky form. This is actually more of a, if it knows the right move, then it can change into its sky form. There is the Forces of Nature, originally trio. Now there are 4 of them with Loverus. I can't fucking remember his name right now. But they have an incarnate form and a Therian form. And there is also Hoopa with a unbound form as well, giving us a total of 14 additional forms. Oh yes, of course, there are some other unique cases. There is Keldeo with an ordinary and a resolute form. That's the one I'm thinking of that has the move that it needs to learn. There's Battle Bond Greninja. So there was Ash Greninja introduced in, I think it was Alola. And the only way that you could get Ash Greninja was by playing the demo for Sun and Moon, and you had to take that. It was like a special Greninja that had Battle Bond as its ability, and then it would become Ash Greninja in the game. In Pokemon Home, you are able to collect Battle Bond Greninja, and it is registered as its own unique form. However, Ash Greninja is not something that you can put into your boxes and keep for good. There is Zygarde, which it's a Pokemon that is assembled of several cells. There's a 10% form. There's a 50% form. There is a 100% form, but that form is strictly a battle form. However, the ability that it requires to become its 100% complete form is Power Construct, and so you are able to register a 10% and a 50% form with Power Construct attached. There is Rockruff, which has a unique form for just having the ability Own Tempo, which is required to evolve into Lycanroc of I believe it's the Dusk one. And then Toxtricity, I love this Pokemon. Amped and low-key, it's basically a guitar and a bass playing Pokemon. It's super cool. Urshifu, which has a single strike and a rapid strike Pokemon based on which dojo you take it to in Generation 8. Zarude has a data form, which is a distribution event. It's basically the same Pokemon with a pink scarf. Ursaluna had a Blood Moon form released in Generation 9, which is super cool looking and badass. Gimmighoul has a chest and roaming style form. The chest is the one that you can catch in Generation 9, and the roaming form you can only catch in Pokemon Go. So this gives us another 13 additional forms to collect. Unfortunately, there are some uncollectible Pokemon forms, and a lot of these are battle forms, such as Mega Evolution. Super sad. Some of those Pokemon look absolutely badass. Would love to collect them. Of course, that also includes Gigantamax forms, Origin forms, such as Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. Attached item forms, like changing the type for Arceus or Genesect or Silvally. The fusion forms, of course, like Black and White Kyurem, Necrozma, and the Calyrex Rider form. And there are some other Pokemon that just have a lot of different battle forms, such as Castform, Cherim, Meloetta, Pirouette, Aegislash, Xerneas. Anyways, the list just goes on. So these Pokemon are uncollectible, unfortunately. And now, folks, here's the momentous occasion where you get to see my Pokemons. Let me show you them. This is a complete collection I have all 1,390 Pokemon. What you're about to see is a series of slides from my Pokemon Home account. I've doubled up on them so we get to see 2 boxes at once. Otherwise, I don't know, Pokemon Home is inefficient at displaying Pokemon. And it would humor me greatly if at the start of each slide, I could just get like a little subdued ooh or ah from everybody at once. And I think I actually want to come out into the audience and just kind of sit and enjoy this with you all. This is a very meaningful moment for me. And if you have any questions or if anything comes up that I would like to explain, we can talk about that as well. So I'll come and join you. Is this thing on? Yes. Okay, here we go. Ooh. All right. So we can see up here, we've got female Venusaur. We've got sexual dimorphism happening here. We've got, nothing super fancy here. We've got male, female Rattata, Alolan Rattata, Alolan Raticate. Here's the completely useless and arbitrary capped Pikachus. What else we got here? We got some Alolan Sandshrew, Alolan Vulpix, almost like that. Ninetales. What's the what? Oh, the G. Yes, so the G means that Pokemon was sourced from Pokemon Go. So you'll see that a few more times, absolutely. Sorry, I think I'm going to turn the music down because it's kind of playing 2 songs at once. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. Thank you. Yes, thank you. All right, some more very minor differences. These Zubat the male has bigger fangs, the female has smaller fangs. Totally sexist bullshit. We got, some more differences between Gloom and Vileplume, Alolan, Diglett, and Dugtrio sporting some super cool hair. Meowth is low-key another Pokemon mascot, and they gave it like 3 forms. So we've got an Alolan form here and a Galarian form here. Persian just has the Alolan form. We've got Growlithe with a Hisuian form and Arcanine to same. Difference between Kadabra and Alakazam here is just length of whiskers. We've got Alolan Geodude line going here, Galarian Ponyta and Rapidash, changing it into a fairy form. I love that. Slowbro going from water and psychic to psychic and poison. I really like the... I really like how Slowbro changes the quote-unquote shelter into a gun on the Galarian form. Differences between Doduo and Dodrio is just the color of the necks. Super dumb. Grimer in Alola is extra colorful. I think that's supposed to be something about oil spills. Hypno just has a bigger tuft. We've got, now this is cool because Voltorb and Electrode are meant to represent Pokemon. In the Hisuian ancient times, they made Pokemon or Pokeballs out of wood. So we have a grass electric type for those. Here is Executor with the long Alolan form neck, super doofy. Also Alolan Marowak. Oh, here is Galarian Weezing looking like a proper sir, member of the Commonwealth. Rhyhorn and Rhydon, just length of horn, super plain, super dumb. It should be noted that like Gen 4, they went really hard on the sexual dimorphism, and after that, I think they kind of realized it was pretty dumb. So, post Gen 4, you won't see a whole lot of these differences, but we've got similar for Goldeen and Seeking, horn length. We've got everybody's favorite, Mr. Mime, and Galarian Mr. Mime, which is just dumb. We've got Scyther with, I'll just note it here before we change to the next slide, we've got a smaller abdomen here and a larger abdomen on the female version. Okay. Tauros in Paldea, the latest generation, which is kind of indicative of Spain. They added 3 water buffalo. We've got plane fighting, fire fighting, and water fighting. Magikarp and Gyarados, just different whisker colors, super dumb. You can't really see it here on Eevee's tail. It's just a slightly different tip. We've got some Galarian forms of the legendary bird trio. So we've got an extra Articuno here, Zapdos and Moltres, etc. Moving on, there's a little G on my Mew. That means it's from Pokemon Go. We've got Meganium with some slightly longer antenna there. We've got Hisuian Typhlosion, which is my dude. Oh man, I will blaze up with that guy so good. We've got Ledeba and Ledian with longer antenna, yada yada, super boring. Let's go. Oh, thank you. We've got Zaytu here with just like 3 pattern stripes here, 2 pattern stripes there. Sudowoodo, slightly bigger antenna, yada yada. You can't see it here on Politoed. Its cheeks are slightly bigger on the male variety. Axolotl, 2 versus 1, little stems there. Also, the Paldean one is a poison ground type, and they just made it looks like a skull and bones. I love that. Quagsire's difference you can't quite tell in this picture, but on the back you can notice that its fin that runs up its back is a little bit larger on the male variety. We've got the Galarian Slow King here, looking super poisonous. We've got all of the unknowns, of course, which are meant to represent each letter of the alphabet, and we've got an exclamation point and question mark as well. This is probably my favorite sexual dimorphism, is just the female Wobbuffet just has lipstick. You know, just like express yourself and be who you are. Wobbuffet knows where it's at. We've got, Girafarig with like slightly like female Girafarig's wearing some lowriders here. Anyways, I'm just going to kind of gloss over some of these other gender differences just because they're a little less cool. We've got Hisuian Quillfish, which is kind of cool. I like this design, and what it evolves into is extra cool. Heracross, I love that the male and female horns are slightly different. Bigger, smaller things. Bigger, smaller. Tusks. A lot of tusks and horns are the major differences. Corsola, the Galarian form, has like a ghost form, which is some kind of statement about environmental change, climate change. And what else we got here? Nothing else super remarkable. Let's move on. Oh, thank you. Okay, here is the most stupid and arbitrary gender difference of all, and it's not displayed here, but the literal difference between a male Torchic and a female Torchic is a 1-pixel freckle on its ass. I don't know whose decision that was, but it was a choice. Everything else in this line is more pronounced in terms of the male-female. We've got a Galarian Zigzagoon, and Galarian Linoon, which evolve into something that basically resembles Gene Simmons. What do we got here? These are a lot more gender differences, nothing super remarkable. Moving on. Oh, yes, thank you. Does anybody else appreciate just how organized all of these boxes are? All right. What else we got here? Just more sexual dimorphism, yada, yada. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there's Spinda. We don't talk about Spinda. Yeah. Okay. This is Gen 3 is my gen, by the way. This is like the one where I did like earnestly try to catch them all, despite the fact it was not on the box art. Moving on. Ooh, okay. What do we got here? Anything notable? I think Gen 3 is just like solid. There's not a whole lot of form variance here. Bigger, smaller thing, yada, yada. Here's Deoxys. So Deoxys, you actually have to take and basically touch some meteorites to give it its different forms for attack and defense and speed. Super cool. I love Deoxys. I love aliens. Please take me home. Ooh, okay, now we're getting into Gen 4, where you can see like half of this box is just male, female, male, female, male, female. It's so stupid. But here we start to see Burmy, so the bagworm that was mentioned earlier. We've got the grass and the sand and the trash form. The female of this species evolves into Wormadam, which continues its trend of collecting grass or sand or trash and protecting itself. The male versions will just evolve into an ugly moth that nobody cares about. Combi is a bee Pokemon where only the female form evolves into Vespiquen. Super cool, and obviously that's just how bees work. What else we got in here? Lots of sexual dimorphism. Oh, here's Shellos and Gastrodon, the sea slug Pokemon, where it's Appearance will change depending on which coast it is on. Moving on. Ooh, thank you. What else we got here? Gibble and Gabite and Garchomp. Just a little tiny notch in its fin there. My condolences to anybody who caught a male or female Hippowdon or Hippopotas and thought that they were catching a shiny. Pokemon Company totally did us wrong, and your feelings are valid. What else we got here? Things that are bigger, things that are smaller between male, female, super boring. But also Gen 4 just like introduced too many evolutions of existing lines, and some of these designs just really turned me off. I was like, what are you guys doing? If you guys keep this trend up, I'm going to quit Pokemon. And surely enough, in Generation 5, I did. Moving on. Ooh. All right. We got our Rotoms at the top. Yeah, there's an oven. There's why do they call it oven? If you in the cold food, out hot, eat the food. We got the washing machine, the fridge, the fan, the mowing, yada yada. Okay, what else we got here? We got Shaman. We got two forms of Shaman. Yeah, that's a mythical Pokemon that's hard to collect. Thank you, eBay. We got we got Hisuian Samurott, which is just okay, I guess. It's fine. Okay, so Generation 5, as I said, this is the generation where I kind of fell off. You know, they had Ice Cream, and I was like, this is not my game anymore. But also these three Pokemon, or these three lines, the Elemental Apes, it just seemed like they were really trying to drive home the whole fire, water, grass weakness thing, when that was already established very firmly with all of the starter Pokemon, and it just kind of pissed me off. Yeah, you need a second tutorial. Hey, bro, I heard you like tutorials, so I put an extra tutorial in your tutorial. Here's actually a more interesting and less arbitrary version of sexual dimorphism in the Unfezant, with the male having a more dominant plumage and the female being quite brown and plain. Moving on. Thank you. All right, what do we got here? We got ugly, warty-ass toads. We got Bert and Ernie. We got Hisuian Lilligant, which traded its hips for some dancing legs. We got all three Basculin. This one was introduced. Who played Legends Arceus, by the way? All right, I'm looking forward to the next Legends game. It was a nice departure from formula. We've got Galarian Darumaka, and that one that I can't remember the name of. There's like 1,000 of these things. So we also have Yamask, and this was another regional form that evolved into something else that we will see later on. Literal garbage. We've got I like the Hisuian Zoroark. Like normal ghost type is just, it's dummy good in strategy. There's like so little weaknesses. Moving on. Ice cream, everybody. Okay, here's the Deerling and Sawsbuck. These forms are changed depending on which season you're catching this Pokemon in the original games. Here's the dumbest heteronormative thing ever. Blue and pink to determine if it's a male or female. Super heteronormative. Thank you, Pokemon, for coming into the next millennium with us. What else we got here? Not a whole lot other than just some cool mons. So Bisharp and the other one. I like what they did in Generation 9 with that line. I thought that was a really cool conclusion to that. Moving. Oh, we do have Hisuian Braviary there as well. Psychic Flying. Super cool. Love it. All right. Okay. Gen 5 did redeem itself a little bit with Hydreigon and Volcarona. Love those Pokemon. We've got the Forces of Nature trio here. So Thundurus, Landorus, the other one. Kyurem, not fused with anything, unfortunately. We do have two forms of Keldeo here. I think I actually can have the Resolute form in the box, but I think I just transferred it over to my Gen 9 games to complete the Pokedex, because that's something I love, and that is a benefit of having a live-in form dex. But yeah, I need to fix that and change that back. Yeah, and then we've got into X and Y here. There's the Battle Bond Greninja. Cannot be Ash Greninja. And here is, you'll start to see some more of this. In Gen 6, we have a lot of form differences. So this is the Vivillon. This is a Pokemon with several wing patterns, 20 wing patterns. These are all region locked. Some, like, you can catch a few forms in Pokemon Go, I believe, in your local region, but a lot of them you have to trade either globally, online. Myself, I just used a hacked ROM on my 3DS. And anyways, moving on. All right, what do we got here? Ooh. All right. A more interesting, because, honestly, like the sexual dimorphism thing, I think they introduced it to a lot of previous generation Pokemon when they implemented it in Generation 4, and because of the designs of Pokemon that were already existing, they weren't able to make a whole lot of actual visual variants. So, having a lion Pokemon where there's a clear lion's mane for the male and more of like a cool mohawk thing for the female, love it. As compared to Flabebe's line with just 5 different colored flowers, it's stupid. I don't like this at all. What do we got? We got Furfrou. There we go. And you can see all the G's on my different haircuts for Furfrou. These can only be collected in Pokemon Go, and I had to grind for some legendaries in other games in order to get these trades. We got Meowstic with their different, like, basically inverted palette swap here going on. What else we got? Oh, Inkay. That is a interesting way to evolve that Pokemon, wherein you actually have to turn your console upside down. So meta, my guy. All right. And also, I love the fossil Pokemon in this generation, the T-Rex and the Sauropod. Super cool. Let's keep going. Ooh, all right. We've got Pumpkaboo. There, it's nice that in Pokemon Home they just actually show you all the different sizes so that you can actually compare them and see them in line. That's super nice. We got Hisuian Avalugg, which is a giant beast. Also, we've got our different forms of Zygarde. So these are both 50%. One is plain, one has the power constructability, and these are the 10% good boys, one plain and one with power construct. We've got Hoopa and its unbound form. You can see, obviously, one of those had to be collected from Pokemon Go. I like that in Gen 9 they give you, you can get at an auction the item to unleash its unbound form. And over here now we're starting to get into Alola. This is Generation 7. We've got, in terms of form differences, we've got Oricorio, the 4 dance forms. I noticed when I was actually going through my boxes that these 2 Rockruffs both have own tempo, so I have to go back and breed another one that does not have own tempo so that I do in fact have a complete collection. My bad. You can all leave anytime you want. No, you're supposed to say ooh. I heard ooh. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. Oh my God. What do we got here? We got just a bunch of Pokemon. There's just a bunch of Pokemon hanging out. We got Minior here. It's nice that in Pokemon Home it actually shows you the collection of the colors. So you got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Roy G. Biv, everybody. All right. Other than that, Generation 7 actually contributed the lowest number of new Pokemon to any of the series, despite including Ultra Beasts, which we have all here. Of course, it was hard to get an extra Cosmoem, but here we are. There is the pride and joy of my collection, the color Magearna, which you can only get by registering all of your Pokemon in Pokemon Home. And then we move on to Generation 8. This is where I actually came back into Pokemon. After Generation 5, I kind of quit because I saw Ice Cream and Garbage and said, this isn't Pokemon anymore. But then my girlfriend at the time, well, no, she's still my girlfriend. She was playing Sword, and so I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Okay, I think I can get back into Pokemon now. And then it became an obsession. So here we are. And I love Generation 8. There's lots of good choices in here. Oh, Pupper. Oh, my God. I just know it because we called it Pupper_02 after having to catch another one. Yes, Yamper, thank you. I was talking about it to somebody earlier. Here's the Sinistea. This is the teacup and coinciding teapot line where there's just like a little tiny label at the very base of the Pokemon, and you can only see it in-game if it's like Gigantamaxed or... they made it a lot easier in Generation 9 to tell before you even caught it whether it was genuine or not. Okay. Here we are getting into it. Yes. Okay. So before we get there, now we're pretty deep into it. Okay. Here's Gene Simmons. Yeah, there's an evolution of the Berserker. Yes, the Galarian Meowth. This is Cursola, which is a ghost version evolved from the Galarian Corsola. Surfetched. Oh my God, this guy will fucking defend your rights as a human being. And then there's just this dapper gentleman. Oh, Renergus. Oh, I love that one actually. And then we have all the alchemy. So you can see we have a strawberry sweet, we have a blueberry sweet, we have a heart sweet, a clover sweet, a flower sweet, a star sweet, and a ribbon sweet. And these are not easy to collect in game, especially the star and ribbon. There's like an item generator that you can like throw a bunch of items into to generate a new item, and there's a percentage that you might get one of these sweets that are necessary to complete this collection. So you have to collect, let's see how many we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different ways that you can evolve these sweets on this Pokemon. And yeah, that was an absolute chore. Apart from the colored Magirna, that is the pride of my collection, 100%. I will be taking applause now. All right. Thank you. Yeah, other than that, just regular Mons. We got male and female here. That's pretty cool. God, I love this Ghost Dragon line here. Dragapult is just OP. I love him. There's our Data Zarud. I just put these guys right in the box because I don't know what the fuck to do with these guys. They're kind of unremarkable. And then we get into some Hisuian Pokemon. Weirdeer. This is an evolution of Scyther. This is an evolution of Ursa Ring. And this is the Blood Moon version of it. Oh, that one is so badass. And I love the quest that they made for it in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And then this thing, Overquill, that is a good name. It evolves from Quillfish. It is kind of badass. There's the other one that joined the Forces of Nature, Loverus or whatever. And now we get into Generation 9. We're going to see fewer form differences. Thank you. We're going to see fewer form differences, but they are here. So we've got Oinkoloin with a male and female, more pronounced differences that I appreciate. Here's the ones that just kind of evolve behind your back when you're not looking. You have a pair with one child. You have a pair with 2 children. Squawkabilly, Rockabilly Parrots, really nothing remarkable. 4 different colors, whoop-de-doo. What else we got in here? Okay, so here's an example of, I don't know if I'm happy or sad or like, I don't know what they're doing over at the Pokemon Company, but these are Tentacool and Tentacruel, but they have put them on land and made them a ground grass type, so it is Toads Cool and Toads Cruel. Similarly, they did something with with Diglett and Dugtrio. This is Wet Diglett, so it's Wiglet and Wugtrio. Oh my God. And they're just new species now. Yeah, it's, it's so weird. All right, these two might look the same, but this is actually an evolution of this one, and it has a battle form wherein you have to put it into battle, switch it out, and bring it back in, and then it basically turns into Superman. Super interesting. Okay, what do we got here? We got, these are cool. These are like little sushi Pokemon, Tatsugiri, and they are kind of tied to Dodonzo here, which is like a big fish, big gulping chef style Pokemon. So yeah, if you've played the game, they kind of all get wrapped up into a little bit of a narrative. This is really badass. This is Annihilape, which is a ghost evolution of Primeape. Super cool, badass. Clodsire is just like a big wet doofus from the Paldean Wooper. Giraffarig just pulled up a hoodie for Rigoraph. Yeah, so dumb. Here's the Dunsparce and the Dunsparce. Just 3 segment and 4 segment. There's a very low probability of getting this 4 segment, so I'm kind of proud of that. And then there are the Paradox Pokemon. These are not different forms. These are entirely new species, and depending on the version of the game, dictates which Pokemon you have available to catch. These ones here are prehistoric, obviously based on oh god, I'm gapping. The Donphan, Jigglypuff, Amogus, Misdreavus, and Volcarona, and then Magneton, of course. And then in the future, you've got another version of Donphan, Delibird, Hariyama, Hydreigon, and another Volcarona, and Tyranitar. Tyranitar is so cool, guys. We have the chest form and the roaming form of Gimmighoul over here, and they evolve into the 1000th Pokemon. Holy shit, they turned it into literal gold. And then what else we got here? We got some legendaries from Gen 9, a couple more Paradox Pokemon, the legendaries, some more Pokemon that are Paradox legendaries. Holy shit. I like this little candy apple guy that they made to come out of Diplin. Or no, his name is Diplin. These are the matcha versions of the tea cup and pot Pokemon, which have authentic forms and inauthentic forms. And then I think this is the last one, guys. Oh, man. All right. And these are just legendaries and stuff from Gen 9. And that is my entire Pokemon collection. So, wow. I can't believe there's still people here. Thank you so much for being here and letting me rant to you about my Pokemon. If anybody has any questions, I will happily talk further about this.
Do you have any estimate for how long it may have taken?
This was kind of a pandemic project. So, I couldn't estimate hours without just looking up my gameplay time. But it like sitting at home with not a lot to do. Yeah, it definitely took a lot of hours. I'll take this one here and that one next.
What was it like getting some of the legendaries that they just haven't had an event for in almost a decade?
It was like an eBay transaction. But thank you for asking. Okay, so to be fair, I did go back and like replace some of them with some of the legendaries that I was able to catch later on. Some of the, for instance, I think in the Brilliant Diamond version, you were able to use some of your save data from another game to unlock a mythical Pokemon. I think they had Mew and Celebi. Yeah. So I used some of those methods to replace some of my eBay purchases, but there might still be some going around in the boxes there. And we had one here.
What was your most favorite to get? What was your most proud of getting?
Most favorite to get? Most favorite to get. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Oh. Okay. I forgot to preface this whole thing by saying that this panel was spawned out of a PowerPoint party. By the way, shout outs to my friends and loved ones who are part of that at home. I love you, and this totally happened because of you. But the original title of this presentation, where I only had 10 minutes, the original title was Living Form Dexes and Other Addictions. So the last panel was just drugs and alcohol. As two other addictions. Sorry, going on. I think, I really enjoyed Gen 9, but my favorite to collect, I think I'm most proud of the Alchemy just because of the time consumption of that. But the colored Magearna, I was most proud of, or one of my favorites because there was only one way that you could get it, and it wasn't actually through playing like the mainline games themselves. It wasn't obtainable in-game. We have one here.
Go for a really hard to get legitimately. Did you have a favorite legendary to trade for those on GPS?
For the Furfrou?
Yeah, those are really hard to get.
Yeah, it was usually whatever generation was newest at the time. For instance, like, a lot of the DLC legendaries from Gen 9 right now are pretty hot on the trading market. So I would usually go and just restart my game and grind to the point where I could catch those legendaries again and have some spares to trade.
Otherwise, you can fly to abroad and default over there, right? So
Yes, absolutely, in the back. Where did I get my Spinda from? Oh, man. I'm trying to remember, actually. I think that one might have been like a friend. Like, basically, like I got my Switch Lite, I got Pokemon Shield, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to get them all, I have to go back. And I just borrowed my friend's 3DS. He had several Pokemon games already, and I think I just like bred a lot of whatever he had already had. So I believe the Spinda came from that collection. My best guess. All right, any other questions? I do have shiny Pokemon. I don't like go out of my way to get them, but I do have some. And yeah, this is I've only shown 70 of the 200 boxes that are available. So I do have more boxes, which house a lot of the Pokemon that I actually use in battle, Pokemon that I have done IV and EV training for, and I do have boxes laid out where I can put shiny Pokemon that I collect in the right spot to fill in a very similar manner of this, but I don't go out of my way to collect them. Maybe have like 50 to 100 tops. Yes? Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm in it for the long haul now. I've worked this much. The convenience of having a living form dex is like when the next generation comes, if they have Pokemon in their Pokedex that are already in existence, I just go and dump them in, bring them out, like halfway done completing the Pokedex. Yeah. Cool. Everyone satisfied? No, we got one more.
Thank you for sharing. It's always a love passionate to that. Just one question. Are you aware of PK hacks?
PKX. PK hacks. Oh, hex. Hex, yes, I'm aware of PK hex. Yeah, I suspect that some of my eBay purchases might have come from something like that, but I try not to use it.
Fair enough. I appreciate it.
Yeah. As much as I can, I've tried to gather these Pokemon authentically. Especially like if I built up a collection like this, the last thing I want is for Nintendo to be like, hey, this is inauthentic. We're going to take it down. All my work has gone down the drain. Yes.
How do you feel about getting Pokemon from Go compared to the actual mainline?
I mean, I do prefer to get it from the mainline games. Like, obviously when you're scrolling through a box, you see the little G on something and it's like, it doesn't fit in with everything nicely. But, ultimately it's just kind of like an aesthetic thing. Like, once you transfer it over to home and the mainline games, it takes on all of the stats that it would normally. They're just kind of generated a little differently. Yeah. Cool. All right, everybody. I'm going to go get drunk, and I have a bunch of other stuff to do tomorrow. So thank you so much for coming out. This has been a lot of fun. Oh, my God. Thank you for hearing me out. Bye.